Hello students, in this session we'll be studying about requirements engineering process. In the requirements engineering process, what's going to happen is requirements engineering process may include four high-level activities. This focus on assessing if the system is useful to the business, that is a feasibility study. Then we are going to have discovery requirements, that's the elicitation and analysis. Then converting these requirements into some standard form, that is known as specification. And at the last, what we have is checking that the requirements actually define the system that the customer wants. That's a validation phase. Okay, this is generally about the requirements engineering process. The processes used for requirements engineering vary widely depending on application domain and what kind of people are involved in the development of a particular application. Based on this, and apart from this, organizations developing requirements are also going to be taken place into consideration. That is, in which organization a particular application is being developed. So these are the three basic things which is going to decide what kind of requirements engineering process we are going to have. The first one is application domain. That is what kind of application we are going to develop. And the second thing is who are the people involved in the development of a particular application. And the third thing is organization in which this application is being developed. So this is about three things wherein we are going to concentrate, right? However, there are a number of generic activities common to all the process, right? There are some common process which are common to each and every application, irrespective of application domain, irrespective of people who are involved in development, and irrespective of application where the organization in which a particular application is being developed, right? So what are those things? The first thing is requirements elicitation phase, which is common, which is generic to all the process. Then we have requirements analysis, then requirements validation, and requirements management. So these are the four basic things which we are going to have in any kind of requirements engineering process. In practice, requirements engineering is an iterative activity in which these processes are interleaved. That is, they are not different process. They are interleaved processes. This is regarding the spiral wheel of the requirements engineering process. We will start from the inner loop, right, which is the start phase. Then what we do is in the inner loop, we are going to check what is the business requirement specification, right? Here we are going to look into what kind of application we are going to develop, whether it is going to benefit us or the customer who are going to request for the things, right? So that is a business requirement specification. Then we have a feasibility study, right? Feasibility study is a study wherein we are going to check once a requirement is being collected from the customer, we have to check whether in a predefined time and whatever the amount that is allocated within that budget, whether we can build an application, right? If it is possible to build a application with a given budget and given time, then we have to proceed, or else we will stop it in the initial steps only, right? So that is a feasibility study. Once that is done, we'll be having user requirements elicitation. In depth, we are going to understand the requirements from the customer again, right? That is the user requirements elicitation, wherein more and more questions have been asked to the customer and they'll be responding to that, and based on this we'll be having a user requirement specification, right? Once the user requirement elicitation is done, then we go for writing a document and which is useful for the customers, right, for the users, and it is known as user requirement specification document. Once that is done, then we go for prototyping the things, right? That is, we are going to check how this can be built up, whatever the requirements we have collected, how we can build up, right? So for that we'll be having a lot of prototypes, and once we have done with this prototyping, then we go for requirement elicitation of the system, that is known as system requirements elicitation. And this is basically needed by the software developers, right? They are going to develop the things. So in more detail, user requirement is being modified in a such a way that which is needed by the developers of the system. Okay, once this is done, we'll be having system requirement specification and modeling. Okay, in this, in more depth again, we'll be having the discussion, and once that is done, then we go for validating the things, right? Then we go for validating the things. So this is how the cycle follows, and at the last, once review is done, everything is done, then we'll be having an output document, that is system requirement document at the end. So basically it is divided into this is divided into requirements elicitation phase and requirements specification phase and requirements validation phase, and at the last we'll be having a document whichever is required for us. Now we will see each step in detail, right? Requirements elicitation, how it is working, and what are the things that we are going to have, each and everything over here. Sometimes called requirements elicitation or requirements discovery. Requirement discovery is nothing but we are going to discover whatever the things that are needed in this particular application, what services have to be provided by this application, what are the constraints under which this application has to work. Everything is being discussed over here. This involves technical staff working with customers to find out about the application domain, right? Because whatever the application we are going to develop, it depends main on the domain, right? We have to understand the domain, then only we can proceed further. Then the services that the system should provide, this is the second thing. And the third thing is a system's operational constraints have to be taken care while we are going to have the discussion with the customer. And this may involve end users. End users might be like managers, or they might be engineers involved in maintenance phase, or the domain experts, trade unions, etc. So these are all the people who are needed during the discovery phase or the initial phase, and we call them as stakeholders, right? Because everyone has their own role in development of a particular application. They give their own consent, right? For that reason, we have to take the permission, or we have to take the suggestion from each and every stakeholder, or else we'll be getting a problem in the end. We'll be seeing that later. This is regarding problems of requirements analysis, right? During the problem collection, what are the problems that we are going to face, right? So first thing is stakeholders don't know what they really want, right? When we as a customer, when we give something, what's going to happen is we will not know how the overall architecture will be, how the final product will be looking, right? So that's one of the important thing, which is a problem. Stakeholders don't know what they really want because they cannot express properly, and they don't know what will be the final outcome. What kind of application will be developed, they will not be knowing. Second thing is stakeholders express requirements in their own terms, right? Whenever a stakeholders express requirements in their own terms, sometimes that will not be understood by the designers or the developers. So that is going to be a problem. Then different stakeholders may have conflicting requirements, right? If there are many people, like management people, what they want to do is they want application with low cost, right? Whatever the amount that they are going to pay for the application, that should be less. But as an end users, they want each and every requirement to be included in the application, because they are not going to pay, but they are going to use. If they feel difficulty in using, then they are not going to use, right? They give a suggestion in such a way that it should be user friendly. It should be having all the requirements taken into consideration, everything that is the requirement given by the end users. But the management people, they will be telling, okay, we will not be giving so much a high budget for this project, all these things. So that is a conflict between the various stakeholders. The organizational and political factors may influence the system requirements as well, right? In which organization application is being developed, they'll be having their own set of rules, right? This should be completed within so and so time, because they might be having some other projects to be done. Apart from that, political factors are also going to play a vital role in the development of an application. So these are the problems. Next one is requirements change during the analysis process. Okay, once we are given the requirement to the developers start building the things. After sometimes what is going to happen is there might be new stakeholders, they are going to emerge, right? They were not in the picture. Now they have entered the scene, wherein they might be giving again their own requirements. And or sometimes what is going to happen is business environment may change, in which application is going to be worked, that is going to be changed. Because of this, requirement has to be changed. So these are all the problems that are going to be a vital role. They are going to play a vital role in the development of any application. Requirements elicitation and analysis. Here, software engineers work with a range of system stakeholders to find out about the application domain, the services that the system should provide, the required system performance, hardware constraints, other system. Everything is being discussed in this elicitation analysis phase, and the different stages are requirement discovery, requirements classification and organization, requirements prioritization and negotiation, and requirements specification. So these are the various things that are present in this elicitation and analysis phase. We can see it in the diagram over here, right? So this diagram tells us we have 4 phases. First one is requirement discovery, then we have requirements classification and organization, and third one is requirements prioritization and negotiation, and the last one is requirements specification. So these are the 4 things that we are going to have in this first phase of development of any software, right? So these are the 4 activities. First activity is requirement discovery. What we are going to do in this particular discovery phase is, here we are going to have an interaction with the stakeholders to discover their requirements, right? Then domain requirements are also discovered at this particular stage. Here, as I said, there are a lot of stakeholders. We have to consult each and every stakeholder so that they are giving their requirements, whatever they want to have in a software, final software, that has to be taken care over here, right? Apart from that, domain requirements are also gathered in this requirement discovery phase. In the next class, we will be studying about how we are going to discover the things, what are the different ways of discovery of the requirements, each and everything we are going to study in the next class. Okay, requirements classification and organization, groups related requirements, and here what we are doing is we are going to group the related requirements and organizing them into coherent clusters. Because when we collect the requirements, there might be multiple requirements, and they might cluster into a particular requirements, right? We can gather them so that, okay, these are the related requirements, we can gather them and we can store it somewhere, right? Then we can collect the requirements which belong to different category, and we can store it as a separate cluster. Okay, so this is the second thing, requirements classification and organization. Once it is done, then we go for prioritization and the negotiation. Prioritizing requirements and resolving requirements conflicts, right? When we build the application in terms of incremental delivery system, what's going to happen is we have to give the priority, which requirement has to be developed first, and apart from that, there might be conflict among the various stakeholders. Okay, someone will be telling this should be included, and someone will be telling this requirement is not of so importance. So we have to resolve the conflicts. So that is being done in the third stage, that is prioritization and the negotiation stage. And at the last, we have requirement specification, right? So requirement specification is nothing but requirements are documented and input into the next round of the spiral model. What's going to happen once you are done with first stage, then what we do is we'll be developing one document, and that document is taken as an input for the next stage. And once we are done with all these things, then whatever the last thing that we're going to have is we will be having a